All right. Psychological Disorders in You by a dope group. All right, so what is a disorder? Psychological disorder can be classified as a syndrome or collection of symptoms marked by clinically significant disturbances of an individual's cognition, emotion regulation, or behavior, according to the American Psychiatric Association. There's also maladaptive, which is disturbed or dysfunctional thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that interfere with day-to-day life. So, a brief history of it. In the 1700s, most people viewed psychological disorders as actually more demonically oppressed or possessed, or they had some kind of spirit in them. Their methods of curing these diseases weren't really ethical, so we're looking more or less, they're looking at beatings, intestinal malnutrition, drilling holes into skulls, and also wearing books on their head. So further into the 1700s, there's kind of a new hope, but it wasn't really a solid, concrete way of solving things. The way of solving things is that Philip Pinel decided that the disorders weren't really demonically oppressed or possessed people. They actually had something wrong with their brain. So in his sight, he really wanted to fix it up and actually say, hey, we actually need to take care of these people. So what happened is they created places known as psych wards, and they kind of just put them in there and was saying, okay, figure it out type deal. And as you see, they really weren't treated for exactly what was bothering their brain or going on in their head. So the medical model of this is also known as the mental health movement. And in the mental health movement, it states that mental illness is going to be diagnosed on the basis of symptoms that would come from therapy, which can include a psychiatric hospital. This form of thing was actually a pivotal point for the psychological area of life, or in the psych field. There we go. So this is how they viewed it in a different way, that they realized, okay, these old methods weren't working, so now we needed something brand new. So psychosocial approach, out with the old. This is the new approach that the old mind, that body and mind were viewed as inseparable. Negative emotions contribute to physical illnesses, and physical abnormalities contribute to negative emotions. Epigenetics, remember that, is the study of nature shapes nature, also informs understanding of disorders. The environment a person is brought up and surrounded by can affect whether gene is expressed or not, which can develop and varies among psychological disorders. So basically kind of almost an attachment theory feel to that. All right, classifying and making that disorder know what is good. So 3 steps to diagnostic classification. Remember these things. 1 is to predict, view the trajectory of disorder in future courses. 2, suggest and find the appropriate treatment. 3, prompt, research the root cause of disorder. So there actually is a book that most psychologists and therapists use, which is called the DSM-5, or known as the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, the 5th edition. It's used by most, like I said, therapists as well as psychologists for mental health workers. It's used to inform, basically, it uses codes that tell kind of what a disorder is and what kind of treatment could be there, and kind of like the steps to make sure you're classifying this disorder correctly. All right, and another thing that goes along with that is labeling. So there's kind of a good and bad side of labeling. Although the DSM-5 is a super handy tool, there's actually a downside to it that you can either classify someone as having, say, bipolar when they really have depression, and you can give them wrong meds, which is causing them to be over-medicated, or even worse, medicating with the wrong thing. Or giving them a label can make them feel really like, well, I have depression, great, this sucks. So there's some bad parts to that. However, there's also a good part too, is that once someone gets that diagnosis and it's correct, they actually feel more relieved knowing that, okay, I actually know what this is. this is great, there's actually a way to work around this, there's actually a way I can work through this and become kind of almost a normal person, and now I'm actually not alone in this. All right, some anxiety disorders. Psychological disorders characterized by distressing, persistent anxiety or maladaptive behavior that reduces anxiety. So we got some types of anxiety, like the one I have right now doing videos. 3 forms of anxiety disorders. There's generalized anxiety disorder. It's a disorder which a person is continually tense, apprehensive, and in a state of autonomic nervous arousal. Panic disorder made by unpredictable minutes-long episodes in which a person experiences terror, accompanying chest pain. Basically, it's a panic attack. Love it. And then phobia. It's a really weird thing when you are scared of clowns for no apparent reason at all. Or maybe in the past something happened. So phobias are basically certain things in life could have happened and you have a certain fear of it, or for just some reason maybe you just hate spiders. All right, and PTSD, another one that's a little bit more serious. So we all know that PTSD is characterized by traumatic stress. So traumatic events such as abuse victims to war veterans experience something that's very, very hardcore, very, very intense. They maybe see something that actually can trigger something in their brain to remember that and imprint them, and they can go back into that point whenever it's kind of a trigger almost. And there's certain things that could trigger noises, sounds, to even certain colors. We also have OCD disorder, which is obsession compulsive disorder, characterized by unwanted repetitive thoughts or action habits. And then some other contributing factors. Through conditioning, where a disorder arises after traumatic events, through cognition, where disorders arise from learning through experiences and senses, and through our biology, where genes in the brain have been shaped by fear and learned from our ancestors. All right. Hey, Carissa. Come over here. Time to do the Big Depression.
No, I don't want to.
Oh, sad.
And the Big Depression is the next slide. Some underlying causes of depression is stressful events such as loss of a job, physical assault, work, loss of a pet or family member or somebody you really care about, past, and then abuse or trauma such as, it can be a biological view. Higher risks of depression can be inherited from your parents, like say parents have depression or bipolar, you can inherit it from them. The brain and depression. In some studies, MRI images have showed that the frontal lobes of your brain were smaller than normal. And then, it's increased mood and arousal, which is scarce during depression, but abundant during mania. Serotonin is another neuro. I was going to read these when I was reading them in the book. Serotonin is found in most foods as well known by the natural mood enhancer. Simple ways to increase serotonin levels is going to the gym, eating healthy sleep habits, get out, and things like that. Suicide is usually linked with depression, and an estimated 800,000 people worldwide experience either suicidal thoughts or self-injury, and in statistics have shown though that women are more likely to attempt suicide or fall in self-harm more than males, but males do tend to go through with it more than females do. So women try, but males actually do it more often. Other higher risks are usually tend to be found in rich or wealthy people, non-religious people, single people, widowed women, or divorced people. Self-harm, also known as non-suicidal self-injury. Any self-harm can be things such as cuts or burns, hitting yourself, like throwing yourself against a wall, or inserting objects underneath your skin or nails. Usually, a person might have poor communication skills or problem-solving abilities, and risks of self-harm can lead to future suicidal behaviors if issues carry on without proper help. Your turn, Miss.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right. I get to talk about dissociative disorders. Dissociative disorders are those which a person's conscious awareness disassociates or separates from painful memories, thoughts, and feelings. And what is that exactly? Well, that is when two or more distinct identities, each with its own voice, manner, and mannerism, seem to control a person's behavior at different times. Typically, original personality denies any awareness of the others, which is formally known as multiple personality disorder. And so we researched a little bit more about that, and it is also referred to as DID. And we found that there are people, or there are professionals even, that don't believe that this is something real. And why is that? Well, skeptics question it because it has a very short and localized history. The disorder is less preventable outside of North America, and to be honest, it seems to happen mostly within North America and not so much overseas. So that's something that skeptics like to base their beliefs on. But those who do believe are researchers who have found shifts in visual acuity and eye muscle balance as patients with switch personalities. They have also found brain shrinkage in areas that aid memory and detection of threat. We further researched this. Hopefully it'll get us extra credit. So DID, what we found is this. DID is an under-researched entity, and there are no clinical trials employing manual-based therapies and validated outcome measures. And this is by a study done by Ch.15 and Gregory. We'll have the information at the end of the presentation. Ch.15 and Gregory conducted a study to implement dynamic deconstructive psychotherapy to patients with DID and co-occurring borderline personality disorder. The study involved 3 cases which reported that within 12 months of starting the therapy, a 34 to 79% of reduction was found in their dissociative experiences. So those who do believe in it have done research to try to find some type of help for those who have DID. And that's it. Our sources are right here, both the extra credit and what we found from the book. And I think Taylor has something for us as well.
Oh boy, do I. Let's get a little up. Let's see if I should do this. 2. 4. Dude, what's in the world?
In 3, 2.
Would you mind telling me
Hold up.
We know what we're doing, we
whose
promise.
brain I did put in? And you will be angry? I will not be.
Alright, we're gonna go back real quick, because I messed this up.
Would you mind telling me whose brain I did put in? And you will be angry? I will not be angry. Abby someone. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby normal. Abby normal. I'm almost sure that was the name. Are you saying that I put an abnormal brain into a 7.5-foot long, 54-inch wide gorilla? Is that what you're telling me?
We do know that there's also a quiz, so Chris is going to walk us through it. Both the questions and the answers.
Oh, yes. Oh, shoot.
What did you do?
Pardon me, boy.
New video. Okay, the first question.
Let's keep going.
The first question is, what are 3 clusters of personality disorders? And the answers are anxiety, eccentric or odd behavior, and dramatic or impulsive behaviors. The second question is, what are 3 types of diagnosed classification? 3 steps. 1 is periodic, 2 is suggest, and 3 is promote. And the third question is, what one's epigenetic mean? Epigenetic. The answer is study of how nature shapes nurture and informs understanding of disorders. The fourth question is, what are dissociative disorders? And the answer is disorders in which a person's conscious awareness separates from painful memories, thoughts, and feelings. And the last question is, give an example of a dissociative disorder. The answer is dissociative identity disorder, or DID. And are there any more possible questions from Pepper?
Stay safe. Don't get corona.
Have fun!